There is a particular kind of ache that does not announce itself loudly. It does not arrive with tears or dramatic moments. It creeps in quietly when a friend stops texting as often, when a colleague gets the recognition you worked hard for, when someone you love seems to need you a little less than they used to. Suddenly, without warning, a cold and unsettling thought surfaces: what if I am replaceable? What if, when I am gone, no one truly notices? This fear, the fear of being replaced or forgotten, is one of the most quietly carried psychological burdens of our time. And if you have ever felt it, even once, even in a moment you quickly pushed away, know this: you are not alone, and there is far more to this fear than you may realize. At its core, the fear of being replaced or forgotten is not really about other people. It is not about the friend who found a new social circle, or the partner who seems happier without your constant presence, or the coworker who stepped into a role you once held. It is about something much older, much deeper, a story that began long before any of those people entered your life. It is a story that started in childhood, in the earliest moments when your young mind was trying to make sense of one fundamental question: do I matter? Human beings are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, our survival depends not just on food and shelter, but on being seen, held, and remembered by the people who care for us. Psychologists call this attachment, the deep biological and emotional need to belong to someone, to matter to them. When this need is consistently met in childhood, a child grows with what researchers call a secure attachment style. They learn, at a cellular level, that they are worth staying for. But when this need goes unmet, when a caregiver is emotionally unavailable, when love feels conditional, when a sibling arrives and attention shifts, or when loss enters the picture far too early, the child begins to build a different internal belief: I can be replaced. I am not enough to make someone stay. This belief does not disappear when childhood ends. It follows us into adulthood, wearing different clothes, speaking in different voices, but carrying the same wound. You see it in the adult who overworks themselves, who volunteers for every project, who says yes when every part of them wants to say no, all because somewhere inside them, a terrified younger version of themselves believes that being useful is the only way to remain unforgettable. You see it in the person who gives and gives in relationships, who bends and reshapes themselves to fit what they think their partner needs, because they have learned that being easy to love is safer than risking being easy to leave. You see it in the individual who scrolls through social media at midnight, watching someone else laugh with the friends they thought were theirs, feeling a hollow, sinking sensation that they cannot quite name but that whispers, see? You were never truly irreplaceable. The manifestations of this fear are as varied as the people who carry it, but several patterns show up again and again. One of the most common is the compulsive need for reassurance. People who fear being forgotten often find themselves seeking validation repeatedly, asking partners if they are still loved, checking if their friends are still engaged, monitoring whether their contributions are being noticed. And here is the painful irony: the reassurance never quite lands. It soothes for a moment, and then the anxiety returns, because no external confirmation can fill a wound that is internal. Another pattern is hypervigilance in relationships, constantly scanning for signs of emotional withdrawal, reading too much into a delayed text, a changed tone, a moment of distance. The nervous system of someone carrying this fear becomes finely tuned to the frequency of abandonment, seeing danger even in neutral moments. There is also the pattern of self-erasure. Some people, in their deep fear of being replaced, actually make themselves smaller, quieter, less demanding, less present, because they have learned that taking up space drives people away. They become the low-maintenance friend, the understanding partner, the easygoing colleague. And yet they carry a private grief about never truly being chosen, never being pursued, never being fought for, not realizing that in making themselves invisible, they have inadvertently fulfilled their own deepest fear. Others go in the opposite direction, becoming larger than life, the loudest in the room, the most entertaining, the most indispensable, building an identity so magnetic that no one could possibly overlook them. But even in a crowd that adores them, the fear remains. Because it was never really about the crowd. What makes this fear particularly complex is the way it distorts our perception of relationships. When we are afraid of being replaced, we cannot receive love cleanly. Affection feels temporary. Loyalty feels fragile. Kindness feels like it comes with an expiration date. We hold people at a slight distance, even as we desperately want them close, because getting too close means the loss will hurt more. We test people, sometimes without even knowing it, pulling back to see if they will follow, creating conflict to see if they will stay. And when they do stay, we still do not quite believe it. This is the exhausting cycle that this fear creates, longing for closeness while simultaneously protecting against it. It is also worth understanding what this fear does to our relationship with ourselves. When we believe we are replaceable, we stop trusting our own worth. We measure our value through the eyes of others, through whether we are chosen, remembered, included, praised. Our sense of self becomes contingent, fragile, dependent on external confirmation. And when that confirmation wavers, as it inevitably does in the natural ebb and flow of human relationships, we do not just feel sad. We feel erased. We feel like proof of our own worst fear. But here is what psychology also tells us, and what is important for you to hear right now: the fear of being forgotten is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that you are too needy, too sensitive, too much. It is evidence that at some point in your life, your need to matter was not fully honored. And your nervous system, loyal and protective as it is, learned to guard against that pain by staying alert, staying useful, staying small, or staying loud, whichever strategy felt safest at the time. That strategy made sense then. It may not be serving you now. Healing from this fear begins not with changing other people or proving your worth to the world, but with the quiet, courageous work of internalizing your own value. It begins with learning to notice when the fear speaks, and to respond to it with curiosity rather than panic. To ask, where is this coming from? Is this moment actually threatening, or is this an old wound reacting to a present situation? It begins with allowing yourself to be imperfectly present in relationships, to take up space, to have needs, to be human without immediately bracing for abandonment. It also begins with grieving. Grieving the moments in your past when you were overlooked. Grieving the younger version of you who learned to earn love rather than simply receive it. That grief, when allowed to move through you rather than being suppressed, has a way of loosening the fear's grip. You are not a footnote in someone else's story. You are not a placeholder, a stepping stone, a temporary comfort. The connections you have built, the moments you have shared, the ways you have touched the lives around you, these are real, and they are yours. Being forgotten is a fear. Being irreplaceable is a truth you have not yet fully let yourself believe. And the beautiful, hopeful reality of psychological healing is this: the beliefs that were built in pain can be rebuilt in compassion. One gentle, honest, courageous moment at a time.